Welcome, coaches. In today's video, we're diving deep into one of the most effective and dynamic formations in youth soccer, the 3-4-3. If you're looking to accelerate player development while keeping the game simple, this formation could be exactly what you need. We're going to break down how the 3-4-3 works, how it fits into player growth, and how to use it to help your team improve at an incredible pace. Let's start by taking a look at why the 3-4-3 works, especially for players who have been used to a 4-3-3. I recently took over a U15 team that had always played the 4-3-3 formation. The challenge? The players didn't have the right kind of wingbacks. Some of them were slow, others were massive center backs who didn't really enjoy playing wide. And guess what? That made the 4-3-3 formation a bit of a struggle for the team. This is a common issue at youth levels. Coaches often try to make players fit into systems that don't match their natural abilities. But with the 3-4-3, I saw an opportunity to develop my players in new and exciting ways, even if they weren't the traditional wingback type. So, let's break down how to maximize the potential of this system. The first thing we need to consider is the player profiles. I always tell my players, if you want to grow, you need to step outside your comfort zone. With the 3-4-3, players can learn a variety of roles, and that growth happens fast when they're forced to adapt to different situations. Let's start with the three central defenders. Traditionally, these players are your stay-at-home center backs. But in the 3-4-3, we want them to become more versatile. Sure, they'll still be key defenders, but we want them to learn when to push up and join the attack, or at least support it. When should they step out of the back line to create overloads? When should they stay deep to provide coverage? It's all about reading the game. I encourage my players to communicate constantly, because without this communication, it's hard to get those timing and movement patterns right. One way I teach this is through small-sided games that focus on transition play. For example, I'll have the three center backs play a 3v3 with no wide players. When they win possession, they have to transition quickly into the attack and carry the ball outside. This gives them a real sense of when to step forward and when to hold as a unit. For example, a wider defender can carry the ball while the others two shift for support. However, if the central defender sees an opportunity to progress the ball, the wide defenders need to sometimes come together, but other times be the outlets. They also learn to be comfortable with the ball at their feet, which is a huge advantage when playing out of the back. Next, let's talk about the four central midfielders. In the 3-4-3, these players are the heart of the system. They're not just covering ground, they're dictating play. I always tell my midfielders that their role is to control tempo, help defensively, and be the link between defense and attack. The beauty of the 3-4-3 is how fluid these players can be. They transition from playing as a 6 defensive midfielder to an 8 box-to-box, and even up to a 10 attacking midfielder, depending on the situation. This constant movement is what makes them so valuable to the system. Let's break that down a little more. While many teams play in a diamond-shaped formation, I prefer something else to really make the players learn the difference between positions and roles. Instead, I start with a flat midfield. When the team is defending, the midfielders need to track back, drop into space, and help cover the wide areas. But as soon as possession is won, these midfielders must transition quickly. A quick pass into the 8 or 10 allows the team to exploit spaces higher up the field. The wide midfielders sometimes provide width, but other times are overloading the central midfield. This means your midfielders aren't static. They are constantly adjusting based on the context of the game. This teaches them to think for themselves and make better decisions under pressure. One exercise I use to develop this is a transition drill, where the midfielders have to move the ball between different zones on the field. I'll set up 3 areas: a defensive zone, a midfield zone, and an attacking zone, each with a set of attacking players that must stay within their own zone. The challenge is for players to move the ball between these zones and move themselves based on where the ball is and what the situation calls for. I leave only 2 players in each end zone and give numerical advantage to the attacking team, but full freedom of movement to the defending team. It's a great way for them to understand the flow of the game. Now, let's talk about the wingers. The role of the winger in the 3-4-3 is one of the most exciting positions in the game. These players need to be quick, creative, and fearless in taking on defenders. Unlike the 4-3-3, Where wingers can get stuck in crowded areas, the 3-4-3 gives them more space to operate. They're often up against central defenders who are not as comfortable in wide areas, which creates opportunities for the winger to exploit those spaces. But the wingers need to do more than just dribble and cross. They need to understand how to invert into space and combine with the central striker. They also need to learn how to drag defenders out of position, which opens up passing lanes for their teammates. This is where their movement becomes critical. I always tell my wingers, if you're in the space, you have to use it, and if you're not in space, create it. In training, I'll run a drill where wingers are asked to constantly switch positions with the striker and the outside midfielders. The patient attacking triangle drill is about getting the best out of the players that you have. The goal is for them to understand how to move into central spaces, create overloads, and link up with the attacking players. This exercise helps develop their decision-making on and off the ball. So what about the long-term development? A key point I want to make here is that the 3-4-3 formation is not just a short-term solution, it's part of a bigger picture. You can use this formation to help your players transition from one system to another. For example, a team that plays the 4-3-3 but is transitioning to a 3-2-5 needs to have a good understanding of how to play both systems. The beauty of the 3-4-3 is that it's flexible and teaches players a variety of tactical skills. How to attack, how to defend, and how to transition smoothly between the two. Let's take a moment to talk about the importance of teaching the fundamentals before jumping into more complex systems. I've seen a lot of coaches trying to implement systems like Guardiola's 3-2-5, but it's important to first build that foundation. You need to ensure your players understand the basics of how to play in a 4-3-3 and a 3-4-3 before introducing all the fancy transitions. That foundation is the key to playing more sophisticated football later on. Here's a simple example. In training, I'll first work on small-sided games where players practice the basics of defending and attacking in both formations. After they've got a good understanding, we gradually add complexity, such as introducing a pressing trigger or teaching how to overload certain areas of the field. The goal is to get them comfortable in both formations before they ever need to transition between them during a match. Of course, have lots of games, many of which can be friendlies where players will be comfortable to make mistakes. They should also experience how it is to play this formation against a stronger opposition and a weaker one. Wrapping it up, the 3-4-3 is an amazing formation for developing youth players. It gives them opportunities to grow by getting out of their comfort zones and learning new roles. From the three central defenders learning when to step up and when to cover, to the midfielders and wingers learning how to transition and create space, this formation helps develop smarter, more versatile players. And remember, long-term development is the key. You can only achieve that by building the fundamentals first, then expanding into more complex systems. I hope you found today's video useful. If you have any questions or want to share your experiences with the 3-4-3 formation, leave a comment below. If you liked the video, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share with your fellow coaches. Keep pushing your players, keep developing, and I'll see you in the next video.